Hi guys, it's Hannah and welcome back to the Dyslexic Reader and welcome to part 2 of my IELTS Readathon / April 2019 wrap up. The first part of the video is already up where I talk about the first 7 books that I read this month, so if you haven't seen that yet, go and check them out. And this is the part where I talk about the next 17, that would be a lot of books to read in a month, the next 7 books that I read this month. So we're just going to pick up where we left off. For Herbology, the challenge was to read a book with plants, or a plant on the cover. I read A Spoonful of Murder by Robin Stevens. There's a couple of flowers here, and I think that is Hazel, has a little flower in her hair. This is a middle grade detective series. I would suggest reading the first one first. I did, and I think that's a good place to start. But for the rest of them, you can read them out of order. Doesn't matter. I think there's 7 or 8 of them now. I've read maybe 5 or 6. I definitely haven't read the latest one and one other, I think. They do refer back to, oh, remember when we were at this place last Christmas and someone got murdered, but it doesn't in any way spoil any of the previous stories, and you don't need to know about like previous things to be able to enjoy the story. So I just see them in the library and pick them up as they come in, and I really enjoy them. It's about 2 girls, and the majority of them are set at their boarding school. I believe it's about 1920s that it's set. But this one takes place, our main character Hazel is from Hong Kong. Yes, Hong Kong. So she has to go back for the funeral, and there's kind of a mystery surrounding her family. And I thought the setting of this was really good. So all the other ones, even if they weren't set in the boarding school, were set in England somewhere. So I thought, take it outside of England. Robin Stevens' writing was really good, and she really pictured, like, I thought her writing really created a picture of Hong Kong in my mind. I thought the setting was good. I thought the characters were good. And as always, I think these are some of the more realistic murders that I've ever heard in books. Sometimes you're like, right, okay, yeah, definitely you would murder them for that, sure, or definitely that would be how you would kill them. But I think actually the murders and the motives in these books are really realistic, and they are solvable, but they're not obvious, and I think that's why I love the series so much. So definitely anyone who's into middle grade or anyone who's into mysteries, or both, these are fantastic reads. They're really gripping, really good characters. Some of them have really good messages. There's a really good representation. There are queer characters in here, POC characters in here. Just a really good series overall. I thoroughly enjoy it. For History of Magic, you have to read a book that was published more than 10 years ago. And for this, I picked My Life in Orange by Tim Guest. This is a memoir of Tim Guest, and he was raised in a commune. If you have seen, is it Wild Country on Netflix, about the American commune that bought a ranch, and they all wore like ready oranges. This is the same one, but it's set in England. So that commune, was it Bhagwan Rasheen was the leader of this kind of, well, I guess they seen it as a religion. And there was Indian, German, British, American. There was communes all over the world. A Netflix documentary, which was really good, focused on the American commune because it was kind of the biggest and went the furthest. Like, they created a city, they had battles with the law and everything. There is pictures through this that are really interesting, and it does actually mention people who were involved in the Netflix, you know, who were mentioned, who were big parts of the American documentary as well, who came over to talk, or he met in some way, and different things. So I didn't know this going in. I had watched the documentary like last year, and I had owned this book since before I watched the documentary, but didn't know that they were about. I was about the 3rd chapter in before I realised this is the same group of people, and it was just really interesting. I thought there was parts of it lagged. I felt that there was parts where he was like, it was addressed better at the end, but there was parts where he's like, and my mother went away and left me for 6 months. While she was away, I did this, but like, how did that make you feel? Like, how did that affect you as a 7-year-old who was abandoned with strangers? Do you know what I mean? I feel like he didn't go into that enough, but there was a good part at the ending about after they left the commune, how him and his mum talked about all their feelings and were like able to work it out and like progress in the relationship and stuff. But I would have liked more of that peppered through the book, and I think it would have made it more personal and less dry, so I gave it a 3 stars. I enjoyed knowing the background of kind of the community already through the Netflix show, and yeah, it was really interesting, but as I said, it was a bit dry and kind of like this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. But if it was a subject that you were interested in, I think it's definitely something that you could put up with. But I think I would suggest watching the Netflix documentary first, because I think definitely having the background knowledge made it a wee bit less dry. So he was talking about this person and this person and this person. I didn't have to think, and who's that and how's I connected that, because I always had a bit of knowledge anyway. So that was that one. I just gave it a 3 stars if I didn't say. For Muggle studies, you had to read a contemporary, and I don't really like contemporary. So in my head, I don't really know what contemporary is anyway. It all confuses me, genres. But I take contemporary as something that was written recently and is set in recent times. So if anything's kind of like written in the last, say, 10 years and set in that time, like in the last 10 years, set when it was written, I'm taking it as contemporary. So this is Fellside by MC Carey. I have read The Girl with All the Gifts by her before, and I enjoyed it, and I genuinely normally don't like zombie novels, but I did thoroughly enjoy it. So I thought I would take this one up. I found it recommended on the Restricted Sections channel, and it is about a maximum security prison in Yorkshire, and our main character is in for killing this young boy. And it's basically Orange is the New Black, but with a slightly paranormal, like a ghostly, but not in a scary way, twist. So there's like a ghostly presence in the prison, Fellside, that she goes to, and it kind of guides her and helps her, and they're trying to figure out how the ghost is and trying to like help the ghost, and then the ghost can manipulate things, but it's not like spooky scary, it's just like interesting and quite gripping. And as I thought, I read the end of this while I was doing a reading vlog, which will be up next week, and I was saying, from reading The Girl with All the Gifts, it looked like we had no pages left and a lot to still happen, and it does happen so quickly, but it's written so well, and it all comes together so nicely, and that's what happened to The Girl with All the Gifts as well. So that's what I was expecting from MC Carey, and she didn't let me down. The characters were good. The major kind of plot twist I seen coming, but there was lots of wee subplots that kind of shocked me, and I was like, ooh, that's interesting, I wonder who that is and things. So yeah, it definitely panned out. So basically, Orange is the New Black. If you like it, you'll like this. It's kind of just a women's prison, and there's like the ringleader and the drug dealer and the crooked guard and the doctor who wants to help but never knows what the right thing to do is. And then it's just got this kind of weird paranormal kind of side plot, and I thought it was really good. I would recommend it. I gave it a 5 star. I thought it was great. Potions was the next ingredient, so you had to read a sequel. I read Predator's Goal by Philip Reeds. This is the second in the Mortal Engines series, and I gave it a 3 star. I didn't like it as much as the first one. I didn't think the plot was engaging, and I'm really going off the characters a wee bit. I'll have to finish the series. I was going to say I'll try number 3, and if I don't like number 3 as well, I'll just finish it. But there's only 4, so I'll probably end up reading 4 whether I like 3 or not, because if I read 3 I might as well finish 3. But I'm not really liking the character development or how that's all panning out. There is parts of the plot that are interesting, but I thought the first book was a more unique storyline, and I thought there was definitely twists I didn't see coming, and I thought it was interesting, but I feel like the second one was a bit more forced. It makes me wonder if the first one was popular and there was no plans for a second one, but after the popularity of the first one, did they continue on just for the sake of money, basically? Because that's kind of what it felt like. But I'm going to give a third one a go and see. I've nothing really more to say about that. For Transfiguration, you had to read a book with either spread edges or a red cover. I read Mistakes Were Made by Stephen Pastis. It's the first in the Timmy Failure books. I've heard a lot about these books. They're meant to be like detective, Diary of a Wimpy Kid books, and I've never read them, and I did not like it. The character was stupid and whiny and annoying, and I don't even think that a kid was really like, you know, like sometimes you watch kids TV and they're all squealy and you're like, how do kids stand that? But they love it. This, I don't even see how a kid could like it. The storyline was just beyond stupid. It wasn't funny. Obviously they are liked because there's like 6 in the series and they wouldn't keep making them if they weren't selling, but I did not get it at all. It must have just been over my head. I didn't understand what the concept was. I thought it was a bit ridiculous and I only gave it 2 stars because I basically only give 1 stars to, I don't rate books I couldn't finish, and I only give 1 stars to books which I find would be like harmful, would have just kind of dangerous material in them, and the attitudes they take and the things that they say, like hurtful, unnecessary badness. So basically 2 stars is as low as I can give unless it's racist or something. So yeah, I didn't enjoy it at all. So that was the end of my 12 books that finished my owl. So I got all 12. I am going for Metal Charmer for my career, so I got everything I need for it. But we'll see how the newts go. And we can change it now because we've options, because I got all 12 done, which is great. But I also read 2 other books this month that I want to just throw in here so that they're in a wrap up somewhere and they're not kind of just left floating. I read The Queue by Basma Abdel Aziz. Probably butchering that lovely Arab name. So this is basically a dystopian. I put it to my boyfriend. I was like, you should read this. It's really good. I would put it down as the Egyptian 1984. It's very similar. It has a very similar feel in the writing style. I don't want to bash whoever the translator was, Elizabeth Jacquet, but I'm not sure the translation was brilliant in my head. Anyway, there were some sentences and stuff that didn't work. But I'm not sure how it would be in Arabic, so I'm not sure. But the writing style felt like George Orwell to me, very similar. It's basically about a country, and the government has kind of taken over, and they require you to get basically a government form that says that you can do anything. And there's some uprising kind of type thing. There's a bit of a scuffle in the square and some people are injured and they start questioning it. So they shut down the building where you're meant to go to get all this paperwork done, and a massive queue forms outside it of people waiting. They don't know if it's going to open at any minute, tomorrow, a week, never. But they can't go to the hospital, they can't move house, they can't change jobs, they can't buy a new mobile phone until they have the paperwork that says that they can do it. So they're just all waiting on the queue, and basically it just follows some of the characters who are in the queue, why they're in the queue, what led to them being in the queue, what's going to happen, like, as these things are not being resolved. And it also then kind of through them shows how the country got to this state. I really liked it. The only thing I would say is description wise, I found it hard to, like, they would say, oh, and the queue's going this far and it's up this road and covered by this and it's so long and they're blocking this bit off, and I found it very hard to, like, visualize. If you'd had like a map in the front cover with like the city on it and marked where the queue started, and then as the book like progressed, you know, you could see like how far the queue was getting, and you put on it like people's houses and key places. I thought that could like bring this 4-star up to a 5-star for me, because I was a wee bit lost by some of it. But I enjoyed the characters. I thought their storylines were really interesting. I thought the way that they entwined was really good. I thought there was a good heart in it, and I would say any fan of George Orwell should give this a go. And I'm not sure that I've ever read any translated Arabic works before, so there we go. There's a first for me, and I really enjoyed it. And finally, I finished City of Heavenly Fire by Cassandra Clare, which is the 6th and final book in the Mortal Instruments series. I've been reading this series since last April, so it took me a full year. So we'll say a book every 2 months I would have read. It wasn't quite like that. There was bigger gaps and smaller gaps, but I really enjoyed this. I liked 1, 2 and 3 a lot. Didn't like 4 or 5 as much, but this I think kind of redeemed the series for me. I did enjoy it. The end was a roller coaster. It ended a bit too nicely, but I'm not mad at that because I was upset when it wasn't going to end nicely. which normally isn't the case for me. And I think, yeah, kind of just redeemed the whole series for me. If it had ended in the same way that, like, how I was feeling for 3 and 4, I'd have been like, meh, read the series, didn't really care. But now I'm back to, like, kind of the enthusiasm I had when I, like, started the series. I still don't really like any of the characters at all, but the world and the concept is so interesting. And I have to say, I didn't see it panning out how it panned out, so that's always got to be a plus, right? I know it's not the best writing in the world, but enjoyable is enjoyable. We all like bad TV and kids movies that aren't Oscar worthy, but like they're still good and it's still fun, and I read for fun and to escape and just kind of relax, and this is definitely what these books gave me. So I know they're no great work of literature. I know that they're not going to inspire young minds or anything, but I really enjoyed the series and there's not much that I can say. So that was all I read in April. I'm quite pleased with myself. Some of the books were very short, so that's why I got 14, whereas normally I only read like 8 to 10 books a month. It was because of some short books because of the readathon, but I overall think it was a good reading month. I haven't got my stats. I normally can give you an idea page-wise. It's bound to be near 4,000, so just slightly above my, I'm trying to for the year read an average of 100 pages a day. So 4,000 for the 30 odd, I think it's shy of 4,000, but not by much. So I read a couple of days more than I should have, but again, that was for the readathon. So I'm going to stop blethering because it's just pointless. I hope you're all happy, I hope you're all healthy, and hopefully I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye.